Hi, this is Jason Latimer. I'm a CRM development consultant and Microsoft Dynamics CRM MVP with Ledgeview Partners. We are a group of customer relationship management professionals who specialize in designing custom CRM solutions to improve business processes and maximize your company's growth potential. Today I'm going to talk to you about some of the new functionality in Dynamics CRM 2013 and how you might be able to incorporate it into your organization. Some of the things I'm going to be talking about are changes to the user interface, the new Autosave functionality, business rules, real-time workflows, access teams, and then I'll be sharing some resources that you might find helpful. With regards to changes to the user interface, I'm going to be talking about the new navigation, quick create forms, the new command bar that replaces the ribbon, business processes, composite fields, the Bing Maps integration, quick view forms, and the new images you can add to entities. Probably one of the most obvious changes to CRM 2013 are the changes to the navigation structure. In previous versions, you used to find most of the navigation on the left-hand side of the screen. Now that's changed, so the new navigation bar drops down from the top of the screen and includes all the things that used to be included in the left-hand menu. The first level of navigation contains all the main areas such as sales and service and marketing, while the second level contains all the related entities to that area, like accounts, contacts, leads, things like that. You can still edit this through the sitemap XML if you were to export that through a solution, but that's really hard, so I'd recommend you use the sitemap editor that comes with the toolbox for Dynamics CRM 2011. It's made by Dynamics CRM MVP Tanguy Tuzard. You can find it on CodePlex for free, and it makes the process of editing this sitemap file a lot easier. It gives you a lot of cool options to be able to add and remove items, hide items, things of that nature. So just to show off the new navigation, from our navigation bar at the top of the screen, our initial areas are found in the first level, our sales, our service, marketing. Once we're in a specific area, you can then see our related entities, our accounts, our contacts, our leads. In selecting a record, we can easily access the most recently viewed records by selecting this drop-down. And then if we actually navigate into a record, we can see the related items that used to be on the left-hand navigation of that record's form. The next thing I'm going to talk about are quick create forms. Quick create forms are a way to define a form for creating a new record that really just is looking for the most minimal subset of data to get data quickly into CRM and get the user to move on to something else. In order to use a quick create form, you first need to enable it from the main entity customization screen. Once there, you'll be able to check the box to allow the quick create option. Defining forms is just like defining a regular entity form through the forms area under the entity. To show off the quick create form, we'll create a new opportunity. From this create button at the top of the navigation, we have access to all our quick create forms. Out of the box comes with quick create forms for creating a new activity record, and the rest are defined by the entities we have enabled. So we'll choose opportunity. And here's a quick create form that pops down from the top of the screen. Keeping with the style of CRM 2013 to avoid all the pop-up windows, it overlays right over the top of the screen nicely. And it's just, again, I've defined it as a minimum subset of data just to get something into CRM. So we'll go ahead and enter a record. And once I save the record, I have the option to either create a new record with the quick create form or view the existing record in CRM. You can define a quick create form from the forms area of your entity. You have a new form type called the quick create. Once you've started your form, you are limited to a single tab with 3 columns. There's also no vertical scrolling in the form, so if you add too many fields going up and down, they'll get cut off eventually. The benefit of these new quick create forms also is you can also still use business rules or any JavaScript you might have defined. Keep in mind if you're adding JavaScript, you'll need to also add the form libraries again and bind the events to the individual fields. Multiple quick create forms can be defined, but only the first one is going to be used. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the command bar. The command bar replaces the ribbon that you used to see in previous versions of CRM. Currently, the first 5 items of what used to be the ribbon are displayed. Everything else falls into the overflow menu at the end. This is to reduce the amount of clutter on the screen and not to distract the user from things they don't need to see. Again, this command bar can be edited using the specific forms ribbon XML. Again, you could export that via a solution and edit by hand, but I recommend using the ribbon workbench made by Dynamics CRM MVP Scott Duro. Makes it a lot easier. It's a solution you can import into CRM and you have access to be able to edit all the command bars. This is an example of the command bar here on the opportunity record. Our first 5 commonly used items. Everything else falls into the overflow menu, and any items that are disabled are just hidden by default because we don't need access to them. The next thing I'm going to talk about is business processes. Originally introduced in the December 2012 service update for CRM Online, a business process gives you a way to kind of control the flow between records and require certain data at certain steps of your flow of events. In its original implementation, this business process was limited to just the sales-related entities, but now in CRM 2013 you can use custom entities as well. And this is available for online customers as well as on-premise customers. In order to get started with the business process, you need to make sure your entity is enabled. So if you go to the main entity customization screen, make sure you check the box to enable business process flows. As an example of a business process, we can take this one from a case record to a custom RMA or record type. You can see in our process bar, we can require certain fields. So in this case, it's prompting us to require a product. So once we've done so, we've allowed ourselves to the ability to go on to the next field. In this case, we're going to create a new RMA record. Again, creates the RMA record into the sales process, mapping over our existing fields. Creating business processes is done through the processes area, just like you would a workflow. Upon opening that, we have a nice editor to create our business processes. When creating it, you have the opportunity to choose which entity you want to start the process at. You can add different stages on the same entity. You have the ability to have a custom field name, what you want to just be displayed. You also have the option to display a category that you can use later for reporting. You can choose which fields you want to add to the individual stage. You have the chance to rename them to something else if the system field name doesn't match. You can also make them required. You can add multiple fields. You can have multiple stages. You can also add related entities, which is the key portion here, that there must be a relationship between the 2 records in order to have a process using them. Order, I can go and add a new process step to invoice. Business processes can be enabled by security role, and you can also define multiple sales processes for a specific entity. To switch out business processes is very easy. Just from the overflow menu, you can select switch process. I'll bring up a chance to select which business process we want to use. Upon switching processes, it always reverts back to the first stage because there could be a difference in the number of steps. All the data that you might have entered is still going to be retained. You just will need to advance the stages accordingly. Another new feature in CRM 2013 is the Composite field. Right now it's only available for system-created full name and address fields, but what it basically does is gives you a way to display a large amount of information in a small amount of space. When you select it in order to edit it, it pops out and gives you all the fields listed out. Currently, the pop-out isn't editable and you're not able to create your own composite fields. But hopefully with further service releases that might change. So a couple of examples of composite controls. On the user's contact record's full name, you can click on it, it pops out. You can click on the address, and once again pops out. Again, we're not able to modify which fields are displayed here, but at the same time you still are able to use any business rules or JavaScript you might have defined for the individual fields. The next item is the Bing Maps integration. The Bing Maps control is available on forms that have a system-created address, such as account, contact, or lead. On-premise customers will need to request a key from the Bing Maps portal website. Online customers already have a key applied to their organization. The key can be set in the System Settings area. Again, an example of which is on the contact record. It has a system-defined address field. The map control can be tied to either the address 1 or address 2 field. And again, it's not just a snapshot. It is a fully working map. I can drag it around. I can zoom in, zoom out. If I click on it, it'll open up the full Bing Maps website. Another great feature of CRM 2013 is the Quick View form. And what this basically does is it gives you a read-only view of data from a related record. And you can embed that on the child record. So what this really accomplishes is, in the past, as a developer, I find myself writing JavaScript or a plugin or a workflow or something to populate data on say from a company address and putting it on a contact form so it can be used so people can see it on the form. That inherently causes problems because you have to worry about keeping the data in sync between the parent and the child. So if you made a change to the company address, you'd need to also make sure somehow that's reflected down to the child records. With the Quick View form, it's just a snapshot into the parent record, so that data is always up to date and it's in a read-only form. In our example, we have our company, our parent record, and here's our Quick View form that shows the address, which happens to be a composite control. But it's read-only. I click on it and I can't edit it. And it's also displaying the phone number form, which is clickable. In this case, it'll make a Skype phone call since I have Skype installed. You can see this is tied directly to the parent record. So if we go here and make a change to the address, we'll see it get reflected immediately on the child record. Save that. Go back. And again, immediately updated, always up to date. No worrying about duplicating data or worrying about having to keep it in sync. The one drawback is if you need to use this related data in a view or a report, you won't be able to because it's not actually stored with the contact record. The last thing related to the user interface I want to talk about are the new images that can be added to certain entities. Right at the moment, accounts, contacts, and users are the only entities that allow an image to be added. Hopefully soon we'll see support for products. It's very easy to add an image to a form. Just click on the placeholder, find ourselves a file under 5 megabytes, and we are set. We can get rid of the image just as easily if we just go back to the default image. It's a great way to easily identify what record you might be looking at in regards to a company or a contact, and personalize your CRM a little bit more. Probably one of the biggest functionality changes in CRM 2013 is the addition of Autosave. And what Autosave does is it commits any changes made to a record to the database every 30 seconds without requiring the user to hit the Save button. The Autosave will fire if the user is navigating off a record or if they happen to have a record open in a windowed view and they close it. Autosave can be turned off at the system level for all entities or can be handled with JavaScript. If you do turn it off at the system level, you do have to keep in mind that if you still close a record that was open in a window or navigate off a record, it still will save your data automatically. If you do disable Autosave, it will recreate the Save button in the command bar for you. So just to see autosave in action, notice we don't actually have a save command in our command bar. We do have a small one down in the lower right hand corner. And also keeping a view on this area, this will let us know that we have any pending changes. So we make a change to the data, lets us know we have unsaved changes. So let's give this a couple seconds and it should save without having to click anything. And there it goes. With autosave disabled, we now have our save button once again. So we make a change, we can wait, but we will need to actually manually save the record. Next up on the list are business rules, also known as portable business logic. And what this does is gives the administrator or power user a way to use a graphic interface to create conditions that can be evaluated and cause certain actions to happen. So example, you can check the value of a field, and you could do something like display an error message, set a different field value, make a field required or not, hide or show a field, or make a field read-only or not. Business rules can be implemented against all forms or individual forms, and it works on all the different form types such as Quick Create, the normal forms, or the tablet client forms. An example of a business rule I have set up on this opportunity record. I'm going to set the priority of the opportunity based on the budget amount. So I have a rule set up to say if my budget amount is greater than or equal to 500, I'm going to change the priority to high. If it's less than 500, I have another rule that's going to set up to change it back to normal. I'll go ahead and change it to more than 500. When I tab out, the business rules are automatically applied and change it to high priority. You can change it back, and again, normal priority. Business rules will fire on one of the affected fields changed, or it'll also fire when the form loads as well. A new business rule can be created from under the entity, under the business rules heading. When you created a new business rule, you have the option to define which conditions need to be met. Multiple conditions can be added, and they work as an and, not an or. So in this case, for our example, I checked the budget amount field, and I said it's greater than or equal to a value of 500. And the action I want to take was setting the priority to high. Again, I could take multiple actions based on the conditions. Also keep in mind that the inverse of the rule is not automatically applied, so I need to create a separate rule that handles when the budget amount is less than $500 in order to make the reverse happen. One of the main advantages to using business rules is that it eliminates a lot of lines of JavaScript code that needs to be written for simple things. That makes maintaining your CRM system going forward much easier. Another key item in CRM 2013 is the addition of being able to run workflows in real time. In the past, when you ran a workflow, it ran in the background, so you had to wait for any changes to a form to be made and processed. So you just have to refresh the form and wait for the value to be updated. Now with the real-time workflow, you can see the results right after the form saves. As an example, I've set up a real-time workflow that is tied to the follow-up by field. What it'll do is it'll check the date of the field and then update the priority of the case, or throw an error if we enter an invalid date. So if I enter a date in the past, we're just going to go ahead and force the save. I get an error saying that the follow-up date can't be in the past, and it prevented me from actually saving the form at this point. So I can go ahead and set this to a date that's in the future. I'll just go ahead and force the save again. And since I had a future date, it changes the priority to high. I clear out the date completely and save. We're changed back to normal status. Creating a real-time workflow is just the same as creating a normal background processing workflow, except when you create the workflow, you have the option to run it in the background, as you did in 2011 and previous versions, or you can run it in real time by unchecking the box. Real-time workflows have a few different options when it comes to setting up when they're fired, as opposed to background processing workflows. You can run real-time workflow after the record is created. You can run it before a record is deleted, or you can run it before or after a record status change, a record is assigned, or a given field is changed. In our example, I'm firing the workflow after our follow-up by field changes. And then it's just a matter of building in some simple logic. In this case, I've checked the value of my follow-up by field to see if it's in the past, and I've canceled the workflow, which also cancels the save on the corresponding form, and I've sent a message back to the user indicating what the problem was. And then again, building out the rest of the steps just involves checking if the field contains data. I set the priority to normal. If not, I set it to high. Another new feature in CRM 2013 is the access teams. And basically what access team allows you an ad hoc way to give users permissions on a record they might not normally have. Currently, you might be using scenarios like predefining teams with groups of users. You might be using the sharing functionality on an individual record basis to give permissions, or you might go as far as using business units and different security roles to define who can access what records. An access team is defined per record, and it's created in an ad hoc manner. Different access rights can be defined per access team, and you can have multiple teams defined. As an example, on this opportunity record, I have a subgrid that allows us to add users to an access team we've set up. I can easily add a user that doesn't already have permission to this record. And now, based on the access rights given by the access team, this user will now be able to access this record. We can define an access team template from the settings and administration area. And also, in order to use access teams on a given entity, it also must be enabled on the entity's main customization form. Once we want to create a new access team, we have the option to choose of the available entities, and then define which rights any users will have on that particular entity. When defining the subgrid on the actual record form, we have a couple new options. So we add a subgrid of users to our form, and then we have a new view available to us called the Associated Record Team Members view. When we select that, we'll have a new option to select an access team template. So that way, any users that get added to this grid will inherit those security permissions without knowing who these users are going to be in advance. And finally, I wanted to share a few resources that you might find useful. First is the Microsoft Dynamics CRM Customer Center. This is basically Microsoft's hub of information for Dynamics CRM. Provides access to things like the SDK, support options, billing options, documentation, help files. You can also check out the Microsoft Dynamics community site, not just for CRM, but also all of Microsoft's Dynamics related products. It has blog posts, articles, it has a great set of forums where users can go on and ask questions that will be answered by community experts and Microsoft personnel. Some blogs you can also look at, the Ledger Partners CRM blog, my personal blog. If you're an online customer, you might look at the Dynamics CRM Online Services blog, which has indications if there's ever outages in service or when service returns. You can also check out the Microsoft Dynamics CRM Team blog, which has great articles on new content and how to use it. If you're a Yammer user, you can check out the LedgeView Partners CRM 2013 site. If you're on Twitter, you can check out LedgeView Partners at LedgeView CRM. You can check out myself at J. Latimer or Microsoft Dynamics CRM. And also, if you're not a member of the CRM users group or the CRM UG, you should check that out. There's lots of chapters all over the world. And what it does is it gives users themselves an opportunity to get together and share best practices, and also listen to presentations from CRM experts and find out what works and what doesn't work and get real-world experience. And that concludes this presentation.